And my little guy, his eyes were filled with tears, and he was so scared to leave my side. And I remember the teacher, Mrs. Tweed, grabbing his hand out of all of the students. She saw his tears and she took his hand and she led him into the classroom. And so for me as a mom, like, I'm emotional thinking about it. But that was the moment where I was like, we made the right decision.
Glenmore Christian Academy has been in Calgary for more than 4 decades. They teach kids from junior kindergarten to junior high with a faith-based approach. For Craig and Stephanie Hill, that's what drew them there in the first place, and they've since had 4 kids attend the school, including a recent graduate. Over the years, they've seen an open and earnest approach to leadership, a caring and principled approach with students, and an innovative streak that's shown itself from everything from intramural sports to parking lot perfection and to scriptural learning. How long ago did your relationship with Glenmore begin?
Our first child, who is now 17 years old, started kindergarten at Glenmore Christian Academy. So we have been there 17 years. And in terms of student years with all 4 of our kids, we have cumulatively, we have about 32 years of student experience with Glenmore Christian Academy.
How does it feel to have the first one now leaving?
It was so bittersweet. You love the fact that they are moving on and transitioning to high school. However, leaving such an incredible community that he has been a part of since kindergarten, and then grade 9 is graduation, was really challenging for him. They prepare them to transition. They do a lot of high school prep, but he so missed the teachers and the friendships and that community. So he actually went through a grieving period in grade 10 for a few months. The transition was difficult.
Tell me, what's something that he left behind from Glenmore that's harder to find in the new place?
It's interesting because Josh did not realize what he had until he no longer had it. And I think the community element that he experienced through GCA was starkly contrasted from the big high school experience. And not just the size of the school, Jeff, but just the quality of connectedness. He found that the teachers were much more involved in his life at Glenmore Christian Academy than in his high school experience. That wasn't him putting down the high school, it was just reflecting upon one of the great gifts that GCA brings to the student body is the teachers really do connect and care. And that was quite noticeable after graduation. So we've now used that to remind our other 3 children, guys, you need to understand how special this atmosphere is for you.
And I really think that he even took it for granted at times, especially that grade 8, grade 9, you're kind of like ready to move on and get on with things. And he very much says to his siblings, enjoy every minute, enjoy the ski trip, the teachers, they care about you. It's not the same when you get out. And so I think he has been a great source of wisdom for our other kids because, by the end there, he was taking it for granted a little bit.
Now, tell me, where are the other 3 in their GCA journeys?
I have a daughter, Victoria. We have a daughter, and she's going into grade 5. So she just finished the grade 4 major shift year, and she did really well with that. Daniel is going into grade 7, and my son Joel is going into grade 9. So we're preparing again to have another graduate, and that grade 9 experience is so incredible. It's really a culmination of years of community. They get to go on a service trip to Mexico, and so there's so much richness in that year that he's really looking forward to it.
Now, I'm wondering, Stephanie and Craig, if you could take me back to where you were, individually and as a family, back when you were first getting to know Glenmore Christian Academy, when you were looking for that first school and making that first decision.
We're having to really go back into the recesses of our minds here, Jeff. That's a few years ago. But I think for us, this was obviously, as it would be for anybody, this was a decision. Our first child, where are we
Yeah.
sending our first child, and what are our priorities? What are the values that would drive this decision? What things are most important? And our tender little boy is going to be
Yeah.
handed over to somebody else. So we considered that, we took this decision very, very carefully, and we viewed a lot of options. I think as much as anything, we really wanted an atmosphere that was going to be noted for its caring community and the
Yeah.
caring teachers. The standard of education, Jeff, that we did on all the research and where the school came in and all the benchmarks,
Mhm.
that was important. The academics were very, very high,
Yeah.
but when you have a child going into kindergarten who's just leaving his stuffies behind,
Mhm.
it wasn't as much as how is he going to do in grade 8, as much as how is he going to integrate? Will this be a safe place for our kid? Is he going to feel like he's exposed and vulnerable, or will he feel embraced and comfortable and safe? So it was
Yeah.
thinking long term, can this school facilitate the growth from an education and an academic standpoint?
Yeah.
But in the very immediate, is our little guy going to be okay? And listening to parents who had gone before us, Jeff, I can't tell you of the rave reviews from parents who spoke of the kindergarten experience. We had
Yes.
experiences with their graduation process for the kindergarten class.
Yeah.
And everything we saw was that these little gentlemen and these little ladies that were entering in, these tender little hearts, were
Mhm.
coming out equally tender, but they had matured in a beautiful way,
Yeah.
and were, quite honestly, Jeff, they were ready for that next step into the big world of grade
Hmm.
1. So all of those things were strong drivers for us and considerations, and they just made us check the box that GCA was the right place for us.
And I think, Jeff, sorry. For me, on a personal note, where I was coming from is when I was a little girl, I had friends that went to GCA, and it was always my dream to go, and I never was able to as a little girl. And so when I had kids of my own, that was something that I was able to give my kids.
That's a perfect bridge to what I wanted to ask next, actually. The decision-making process for different families is all over the map. Some of them it's extensive and scientific, going through a huge list and doing all kinds of pros and cons. Other times it's more intuitive and it's by gut, and sometimes you kind of know where you want to end up. Uh, where on this spectrum were you guys?
Well, for me, I know Craig kind of articulated maybe more of a systematic approach where he was looking at it from the linear side of things. For me, it was really just seeing the families that had gone when I was growing up, and I admired the character of the families. The faith-based component of the value systems aligning with ours was a huge consideration. And so I think we really had a mixed bag. My little guy too, we had originally done preschool Montessori, where our guy was reading really early. So the academics did matter to us hugely. And that was like an incredible plus to the school. So I think we considered all of the factors, to be honest.
You raise a good point, and we also often talk about the full child education, that it's not just about the report card in the classroom, but the development of the person. Glenmore Christian Academy is a faith-based institution. Values are very important there, and even already so far in our conversation. Tell me about that, the person and the values and the role that faith played in that.
That's a really great question, Jeff. And maybe to be transparent with where we were coming from, we never expected or required or thought it was appropriate that GCA was going to replace what we as mom and dad could give in terms of our value system and our faith. And we didn't require the school to teach them. We didn't approach it that way. We felt that it would be a complement. We did this align with our own value system? And would this be something that we could support the direction of the school? And would the school support what we as a family were contending for and our core values? And it was a resounding yes to that. And I think probably if I were talking to other parents who were considering the school, I think that would be a real important consideration, that you really do need to be aware of what you're getting into here, because the
Mhm.
school, make no mistake about it, it's Glenmore Christian
Christian.
Academy. So they bring very much a Christian worldview, a
Mhm.
biblical worldview to all it is that they're
Wow.
teaching. And if that's something that is a little bit of a unknown or an insecure spot, or something that there's a little bit of trepidation, you'd want to mind that and get some real clarity on what that looks like on the day to day with the kids. For us, we were really comfortable with their statements of faith and their
Mhm.
value systems. So it was never a hurdle for us to overcome. And then
Yeah.
experientially, we watched those values play out in our children's lives with just that extra degree of tolerance that was required from students one to another. And some of the things that we see in our culture today that are forefront in the challenges relationally, well, the school has done a good job, not a perfect job by any means, of really
Mhm.
instilling the value of every individual
Yeah.
as important in the eyes of God, and therefore one to another. And I think from the earliest stage, one of the things that has been a great benefit for our kids,
Mhm.
GCA is very multicultural.
Yeah.
So you don't get to approach a thought just by one vantage point.
Mhm.
There's so many perspectives brought to it. And I think that helped our children have a profound respect for other races,
Mhm.
nationalities, stories,
Yeah.
thought processes, and they've grown up their lifetime with all of that.
Very
So
much.
huge benefit.
I would say a biblical worldview, but as well as a global perspective too, because of all of the different cultures that come to GCA and call it home.
Mhm.
Yeah.
When you were making that first decision for your first child, and of course, Glenmore Christian Academy being a faith-based school, is that something that set apart and made it different from other schools you were looking at, or was it something that you had sought out and were looking for? We're choosing between an array of faith-based schools.
Great question. We had another Christian school that we were also comparing it to at the time. And really, I think it came down to location for us and the proximity of GCA to our home. That was really the main factor, as well as just as I said before, I had known families and my friends had gone to GCA, and so I really had great experiences with it in the past, and I wanted to give that to my kids in the future.
And Jeff, my answer to that, if I can just add, there's no question that we weren't just looking for a private school, and we were not just looking for a school with high academic standards. The faith component and that Christian context was very much a key and a driver for us.
Yeah.
Totally. And what I really want to ask you about, Stephanie, now is you had GCA in your head and in your heart for a long time since,
Yeah.
and the impression that makes on a person is very different from the analytical approach of a parent weighing pros and cons. What were some of the feelings and ideas that you associated with the school from that earlier time in your life?
Great question. I just, again, I think community, uh, families that I admired, how I saw them function in one to another, the support that they were. I really do feel like GCA has a real family atmosphere, and that really appealed to me. And so I wanted to give that to my kids as an extension of it. The truth is, it takes a village to raise a child, and I felt very comfortable with GCA being an extension of our home, pouring into our kids, because your kids are out of your care in the span of 24 hours. They're out of your care 8 hours of the day, and I wanted to know it was a healthy place, a safe place, and who those voices were shaping and influencing them. I needed to trust those voices, and I felt very confident that GCA was that village that I could invite into helping raise our children.
You know, it's been 40 years since GCA was founded. The place has grown quite a lot in that time. I'm wondering if there was something that, you know, when you walked in those doors for the first time as a parent, if there was something that that surprised you, or that you weren't expecting to find based on your experiences earlier in life.
Well, yeah, it's grown. I do remember being a little girl, and it was planted in the middle of a farmer's field. And now you go there, and they've done an addition to junior high. There's a whole different wing of the school. It's surrounded now in an urban metropolis. It's certainly not that quaint country school, and it has grown exponentially. I think there's 800 students. I don't know my statistics with that, but it has grown. And I feel like the core of the school and the value system of the school has remained intact. So although it has grown, my expectations of what it is has definitely remained consistent. They also are progressive. So the technology, bring your own device, the junior highs from grade 6 to grade 9, it's all technology based, cutting edge in terms of the structure of the school, the classrooms, the different ways that they set up their science programs and their band program. And so it's not like they're a 40-year-old school. They have a history and a healthy, great foundation, but they have been progressive to adapt with change and are incredible innovators. I've found that satisfy, where our society is going and what's required for learning in this new era.
When you, back to that first day when you first walked in the doors, is there a specific memory or experience or something you observed that made you go, okay, this might be the right place?
Mm-hmm. For me, I think about back to my little guy, Josh, when he started kindergarten, and the way they integrate them in, it's not a first full day. They have them for an hour and a half so they can get adjusted and comfortable. And my little guy, his eyes were filled with tears, and he was so scared to leave my side. And I remember the teacher, Mrs. Tweed, grabbing his hand out of all of the students. She saw his tears, and she took his hand and she led him into the classroom. And so for me as a mom, like, I'm emotional thinking about it. But that was the moment where I was like, we made the right decision, because of just that personal care for my child.
Craig, same question?
Well, my answer is not quite as an emotional connect as Stephanie's was, but my child is, as is every parent's, unique and so special to you that you're concerned, almost locked in, how are they doing, forgetting that there's a number of other children around. And what stood out to me, Jeff, was that Mrs. Tweed invited each of the children as they left to decide for themselves whether they wanted a hug,
right,
a high five, or a handshake. And there were a number of the kids that would immediately jump into her arms and embrace her. This was the most warm and wonderful day of their lives. And others that were a little more reluctant. And my kid was not asked to do something he wasn't comfortable with. He embraced her and said his goodbye with a less than warm embrace. And she made it a safe place on day one for my little guy to grow and become. And that's been, I think safe is an overarching word that I would use, that I've seen happen for all of my children through all of the seasons and phases at GCA.
With that in mind, tell me about the other children you sent to GCA and something that was different or unique about their experiences and journeys.
Well, I'll take you in a place, Jeff, that I don't know you if you're going to add this to the story or you'll edit this out. My second oldest boy, his name is Joel, and Joel is a very tender heart, beautiful boy, very smart, very athletic, and very high social IQ or EQ, and he connects emotionally quickly with people. And on one of his experiences on the basketball team, he's playing on the team, and Joel is not by any means the best player on this particular team. And we're watching him experience a lot of frustration of not getting the playing time that was necessarily what he thought he should be getting, and not understanding the decisions being made by his coaching staff. And he's wrestling. He's processing, trying to figure out how to just grapple with what he feels isn't fair or right. And my grade 8 son, who's almost as tall now as his dad is coming with crocodile tears rolling down his cheeks after a game. And as a dad, I'm not happy with what I'm watching. I have committed a lot of my time. I've committed a lot of just family resources to make it work for a kid to play on the team, and it's turning into a crying experience for our boy. This is not right. And I'm going to step up and sort this through. So I've made an appointment to talk to the coach, and I just want to help move my son through this. And I sat with the basketball coach and my son and watched this man with the most just real tenderness, real honesty, real authenticity, allow Joel to express everything he wanted to express, ask all of the questions that he wanted to ask, receive very clear, honest answers. And they were not easy answers for Joel to hear, but this teacher respected my son enough to tell him what he needed to hear, what he should hear, and what was going to help him to grow in his character and to grow in his skill set as an athlete. And I watched that, and I shaked this teacher's hand. And I said, Dave, I really appreciate that you would give us this time and that you would speak to my son the way you have. Thank you. And that was a defining moment, not just for the basketball season, but I believe in a life moment for my son, Joel, that through a negative experience, something that wasn't going well, this teacher was much more than a basketball coach for him, but he invested into his heart and he invested into his character and has really set my son on a tremendous trajectory through a difficult experience.
Yeah, that was a good one. It's just all the different seasons of life from kindergarten to now. We have 2 junior highs, and our little girl has made it through grade 4. I mean, grade 4 is like a real thing. I've had 4 kids go through grade 4, and it's such a tender age of transition from elementary, prepping them for junior high. And GCA2 is super aware of that and really gets them junior high ready, which is incredible, but not without bumps and conflict and those kinds of things. And so whenever we have gone to the school or had meetings with teachers to work out the things, we have been really impressed. And our motto is bumps make us better. And we've certainly seen that too with GCA.
Grade 4, it sounds like, is an important bump.
Grade 4 is a thing, I tell you, guys. Grade 4.
You know, thinking about GCA as a place where there is that continuity, where you sign them up in kindergarten and they check out in high school. Tell me about the importance of that bump and what they do at GCA to make it work.
Great. They really get the kids into an independent shift. So it's actually hard on the parents, I think. It's like they're trying to train us as parents to kind of give that independence, to not drive their learning as much. I mean, we're still hands-on. They communicate with us all the way even up to junior high. You get weekly summaries of what the kids have done and if they're missing assignments. So you're definitely still in the loop, but they're starting to wean back the parents to allow them greater independence with learning assignments when they're due, writing them in their agendas. If they miss an assignment, that it's really between the student and the teacher. They are giving them locks. That's a huge thing, and lockers. And so I tell you that first month of school, they're late for their classes. They come home in tears because they can't get the lock. But the teachers, they're coaching us parents behind the scenes to say, let it happen. This is the whole point of grade 4. We're training them to have master the lock, to understand how to change into their gym strip. And I really value how they are starting to wean the kids and help the kids with independence, but also coaching us parents behind the scenes. So we let it happen and we don't get too upset about it, you know, as our kids are going through that transition process.
You know, you touch on an important point, is that, you know, the school's relationship with your kids is not the only relationship taking place. Tell me about the relationship that exists between GCA and its parent community.
Well, of the two of us, my wife is definitely the one who is more engaged, and I'm a little bit more reluctant. And for me to tell you how impressed I am really speaks volumes for GCA, because whether it would be from the interview process, the parent-teacher interviews, the extra offline conversations that they're willing to have with you, the accessibility, they make themselves available to parents to talk through whatever may need to be discussed, whether it's an easy conversation or a point of clarification or even a frustration being shared. There has never been any hoops to climb through or barriers to connect with those that are most closely connected to the kids or the situations. We have found communication to be tremendous. Tremendous, not just about how our children are doing, but the direction of the school, Jeff, the values, where we're at. There have been a number of occasions over those combined years of having kids where there's been very difficult things that have happened within the school, around the school, with other students, from tragedy to just real concerns within the neighborhood of potential vulnerability of things happening within the community itself. And the degree of clarity, consistency, and transparency that the school has regularly offered to us as parents has been tremendous. And I say that as well, adding that it hasn't been over the top. It's not been as though there's nothing else for them to do, so let's just send out another email. It's been very appropriate communication consistently through the years in all different mediums. And I think as a dad who, I don't need to hear everything, but it's sure nice to know those key pieces, and when I want more, it's available. I think that's what I appreciate with the way that they've communicated with us.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Craig, you mentioned moments of challenge and tragedy. I'm wondering if you could tell me about a time when you felt that the faith and values of the school really shone through in something that took place in the community.
Well, I can. There would be a few instances that there have been deaths within the broader community, whether it be a schoolmate or somebody within, that causes great ripple of sorrow and tragedy, impacted everybody one way or another. And the way that the school would rally around and just suspend the agenda of learning the curriculum to deal with the condition of the heart has been quite remarkable. These are the unplanned elements of life that you can't discard. And the way that we would watch the school be that village, be that family, and truly be a community that didn't just talk about care, but expressed it to the ones that were closest to the grieving, and then to the outer circles of kids who may not be as intimately connected, but still have feelings. We would watch the school almost just take a pause and make sure that we're okay without too quickly moving forward. And we've seen that on a number of occasions.
Tell me about what happens in the classroom and what it is that you appreciate there.
Depending on the grade, there's lots of interaction. I love how the seating plan, dependent upon the teacher. If you walk into GCA, every classroom reflects the teacher's personality. So I can think of one of my kids have had him all the way through. It's almost like
you're in a Canadiana
lumberjack adventure escape. And the tables are not individually seated, they're round tables for collaboration. And that's how he sets up his classroom. Into another teacher who's very reflective, and it's more like a little tea shop. And so I love that GCA really gives their teachers, empowers them to create their classroom reflective of their personality, and then also honors and empowers the students in the same way. And so I love the level of creativity, collaboration, excellent teachers, excellent. In junior high, you'd go in and there's different chairs based on, you know, that age group, where they can rock in their chair, they can move around at times. The band program at GCA is excellent in terms of just the level of interaction in that kind of way in learning. It's not just sit at your desk and be quiet. There is moments of that where they are building stamina and discipline for that, but then there's also so many bursts of creativity and collaboration, as well as the physical space of GCA, I would say, is a very beautiful facility. The theater is stunning and gorgeous. The cafeteria space, the classrooms, everything, the facility is one of excellence.
It really is.
Now, I want to tap into, as you say, you've had decades of experience at the school between your kids, and I want to tap into that. What's something that you've seen the school work to improve over this time?
This may not make your highlight reel, Jeff, but even to the degree of the movement of parking and the safety of drop off. And if you think that doesn't matter, ask other parents who drop off their children. We talk about the flow of parking and traffic with the various schools. It's real. And they have streamlined and systematized and taken a very tricky logistical, like you almost need algorithms to make the parking drop off and pick up work. And GCA has done that. We've seen almost yearly, even from minor tweaks, but there's been continual improvement. So if your first encounter, you recognize the level, they're engaged from the first approach to the last. I've noticed that and thought that's tremendous.
That's good.
Another one, they have done a large expansion on the school, as Stephanie had mentioned. In the time that our children have been there, they've added a whole new wing to the school. And I have to tell you that it was designed to better serve the children, to allow for more, and to allow them to not leave at grade 6, but to be able to go from 7, 8, and 9. And if you were to ask my son now, he would tell you that was one of the best experiences of his young life, to be able to do those years at GCA. And while all of that was happening, Jeff, you didn't feel as though the other grades were being compromised by this large construction process. It was insulated so well, it was done with such excellence, that life was moving along really, really well while they were preparing for the next phase. And to me, those couple of things speak of how thorough GCA is in its planning and its execution from as they grow and expand. How about you?
Yeah, I think what first actually comes to mind is even something, scripture memory. So that was a component of the school, that to memorize verses in the Christian education component, which is a part of the learning experience at GCA. And I think as parents, I remember discussing this to just get our kids to like memorize something, but actually not have a connection to it, or to know what it means. That was definitely feedback that we would bring up often, because you don't want to use just scripture to like correct or discipline a child, or like write out a scripture verse however many times
and
you
be disconnected
or you want them to actually be memorizing something, to connect to it, to have meaning to it, and how does it apply to your life now. And I would say that we have seen incredible growth in that area from when our child was in kindergarten to now in that program specifically, which has been great to see, because they can really bring it down to the fundamental building blocks of what it means to them now, and really growing character. And I've seen that evolve for sure. And I was glad to see that.
I'm going to give you one more, Jeff.
Please.
My oldest son, Josh, would lament right here and now and say, I wished they had the intramural program that Victoria is doing when I was in her grade. How come she's in grade 4 and they have this amazing intramurals program and I never had it? Well, there's a million reasons for that, but the point is there's an extraordinary intramurals program that didn't exist that they're adding quality to, and our kids have the opportunity from basketball to soccer to hockey to all kinds of other things to be doing before school, at lunchtime, that isn't about only the best athletes get to make the team. And that didn't happen, and it's subscribed. Every kid in the school seems to be a part of this. Everyone can play, and to be sure, it is competitive, but it's incredibly fun and incredibly inclusive. And that wasn't there when we started, and it's just getting better and better and better with every year.
Yeah.
Now, both these last two changes and evolutions you just mentioned, with the scriptural learning as well as the intramurals, tell me about what's behind that change. Is it an innovative streak? Is it an adaptiveness or a response to feedback, or what's going on behind those changes?
Well, I can speak specifically to the Christian education component. I know that there was it is a response to feedback, and that bodes really well for the school, because there was feedback saying my child's being graded, got the essence of this verse, and there's 75 words in this, and he said thee instead of thou, and he didn't get graded properly. And I think we're missing the point. Is that really what we're trying to do? It was that kind of tone. And those who oversee the Christian education program said, this is absolutely correct. We're wanting them to understand the deeper meaning, and we're not going to grade them for the letter as much as they've got the overall context. So they even made a grading system that didn't allow for a complete butchering, if you will, of what was being required, but it didn't have to be 100% to get 100%. I was like, wow, have you ever got the heart of it here? And it made it much, much more engaging for the kids, and not about just, could I regurgitate it, but do I understand it? And that they shifted their value in their grading. Credit to them for sure for that.
Yeah, that was definitely through feedback, and we watched that shift and change, and then adapt to really what the parents were saying and the needs of the kids. So bravo for them to do that. The whole intramurals, that was very innovative. It was like we have talked about, the incredible teachers and creativity. That was in a teacher's heart to do it. And the administration were like, go for it. And so that teacher rallied the other teachers, got parents involved, raised funds to buy jerseys for the kids. And it's become like this incredible program. But it was because it was in one individual teacher's heart, and they had support of the administration to say, go for it, create it, do it.
In the spirit of continuing to mine into your decades of cumulative experience at this school, I want to wave my magic wand and put you in charge. So let's pretend for this thought experiment that you're the headmaster and you're planning for the next 5 to 10 years. And I want to know, one, a strength that you would double down on, a challenge you would work on, and something totally different that in a perfect world you'd try.
Okay, I'm going to work on the culture in junior high. I think that we have seen an extraordinary collegial community, family, safe. The elementary aspect feels different than the junior high does. And Jeff, I'm a parent of elementary age students and junior high, so I understand that that's to be expected. I would say that if I'm the headmaster, where I'm directing my energies is to continue to give the support to the leaders in junior high, to continue to resource my junior high teachers. They're in such a front line position with these young lives as they're preparing them to transition now into an even harder season, into those high school challenges and
Yeah.
And that world is it's a tricky place to be. As headmaster, I'm going to direct my attentions to the junior high wing and
Mhm.
the junior high world, and really make sure that I'm not unaware of how tricky it is for my staff to lead these young lives. I think I would feel very comfortable to allow the elementary to continue as it is. They're just doing a tremendous job in every way. I would give them full marks for that and make sure I'm resourcing the junior
Good.
high. How about for you?
Yeah, I think that's, I'd echo those thoughts. I also think probably with the number of students, if there could be resources to expanding the facilities on that side again, I would look into doing that. And so just the spatial needs,
They're growing.
there was a year that was brought in that now it's, I guess it's the bubble year, there was like another grade added in. And so now that goes all throughout our school. And so even just the capacity of spatial issues, practically speaking, with facilities is getting tighter on that side. So again, that's the focus is on junior high.
I'm going to give you one more, Jeff. And I'm speaking again, I'm advocating for my 17-year-old GCA grad who would say, Dad, why didn't this exist for me? There has been so much good that has come out of the intramural program, the sporting programs that are the non-team based. I would double down on that, and I would resource that as much as I could, and I would expand that also into the junior high world. There are
Yeah.
only a few teams that you can be on within the school, and those teams are run so well. They're highly competitive, and they're overseen with excellence. It's the other kids. As soon as you leave elementary, you've now got no further programs that you can participate in. I would put some attention, give attention to that.
Fantastic. Well, I guess that covers our strength. The teachers in the middle school that we want to keep resourcing and double down on. At the same time, challenges in the culture with that, just dealing with that age group that we want to keep paying attention to. Facilities, always a thing that can use further development, and expanding the intramurals is something to try so that all those young people can have that opportunity.
You got it.
Look, I want to be respectful of your time, but before I do, I want to give you the steering wheel. Is there anything you would say to me or to those parents making that decision that you would say before we let you go?
Sure. Thanks for that opportunity, Jeff. I would say, as a dad, I appreciate the importance of my role in setting the tone within my family. And Steph and I parent together, and we really are engaged in the process of our kids. And I see that very same thing happening with the head of school at Glenmore Christian Academy. The gentleman who is at the helm is engaged. He cares. He's not asleep at the switch, allowing things to come past him at the door. In the same way, we're attentive in our own home, and our attention within our home creates an atmosphere of safety, creates an atmosphere of risk, safe to risk for our children. It's a place where our kids can grow. And I know how cheesy this sounds, Jeff. I get it. But one of the values for Steph and me is we want our children to have both roots and wings. That we want the roots to go deep so they're established, and we want them to have wings to soar. And Glenmore Christian Academy, underneath the leadership that's there, is doing that for the children. And if I were to say one thing that's the difference maker, hands down, as much as the curriculum and the facility is first class, it is those who are giving oversight to the school. They have my profound respect.
Not easy.
And the reason that I say that as a concluding comment, Jeff, is not because of how well everything, how finely oiled the machine is. I have seen it when the machine has come off the tracks, how it's in those moments that they have shown their colors. And they are truly, truly tremendous people.
I agree with you on that, and I'm so thankful for leadership. I think it all can break down if you don't have strong leaders guiding the organization, and there's integrity and there is authenticity, there's vulnerability. It's not perfection, They learn from mistakes, and they have humility to say when they miss the mark or where they need to improve. And so again, that to me is a very safe culture. Perfectionism is not safe. Authenticity, vulnerability, being a learner, always willing to grow, get feedback from parents, and move together in that unified place. We've definitely seen that over the span of many years being at the school. And so I'm really thankful. And I know my kids, I have 4 kids, 3 boys and 1 girl. They are not the same, such different personalities, and they all are thankful for GCA. They love their school. I asked my son the other day, I'm like, who's your favorite teacher? Who's impacted your life? And he has a top 10 that he can't pick. And it's like we really want to give honest feedback. It's not, again, that there's not bumps, but when there's an opportunity for so much growth out of those. And my kids are fans. And as parents, that's what you want. You want your kids to want to go to school, to be safe, to be happy. And all 4 of them are on a daily basis. And we're so grateful for that.